Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Mass Shootings in America, Understanding the Debates, Causes, and Responses. Foreword by Frank DeAngelis. Edited by Jaclyn Schildkraut. Narrated by April Doty. Editor's Note. As this book went to press, 3 additional senseless tragedies struck the United States. On October 1, 2017, a shooter opened fire on a crowd at the Route 91 Harvest Festival in Las Vegas, Nevada. A total of 58 people were killed, and 489 others were injured before the shooter committed suicide. Just 5 weeks later, on November 5, 2017, an armed attacker entered the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. As parishioners were participating in their Sunday morning prayer service, he opened fire, killing 26 people and wounding 20 others. The shooter committed suicide after fleeing the scene and being chased by a pair of local residents who heard the attack and responded. Then, on February 14, 2018, a former student entered the freshman building of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and opened fire. Within minutes, 14 students and 3 of their educators had been killed. The shooter fled the school and was apprehended a short time later nearby. Though we were unable to incorporate these mass shootings into this encyclopedia's coverage due to the timing of the events, as they fell beyond the scope of the section, we believe it is important to recognize these events and those who were impacted by them. We hold the communities of Las Vegas, Sutherland Springs, and Parkland, as well as all those affected, close to our hearts, and hope that these terrible tragedies will further highlight the need for Americans to engage in serious and somber discussion of the phenomenon of mass shootings in the United States. Foreword. Columbine High School opened its doors in 1973, and its first senior class graduated in 1975 with the motto of Stretch for Excellence. Although Columbine's mailing address is Littleton, that is misleading. Littleton is the seat of Arapahoe County, and Columbine is about 5 miles west of Littleton's downtown. I am guessing that, until 1999, most Denver area residents thought of the Columbine area as being in the Jefferson County city of Lakewood, not Littleton. The high school is 14 miles southwest of the Colorado State Capitol building in downtown Denver. I describe the Columbine community and the school to provide context. If you had said to me years ago that something horrific would happen at Columbine, I would have said no. No way. Not in this community. Jefferson County had 162 schools. An impressive 92% of our kids graduated on time, and over 88% went on to college, with 25% of the student body getting some type of scholarship. It was a community of pride and tradition. There was a lot of parental support. It was, and still is, a highly respected school. I thought, we all thought, that it could not happen here. And the reaction I hear from others when they ask me about the shooting often is, Frank, your community is just like ours. I tell them that no one is immune. What happened at Columbine, I tell them, can happen in any community, on any given day. I started my career at Columbine High School in the fall of 1979. I was hired to teach social studies, but I also worked as the assistant football coach, head baseball coach, and Senate sponsor. I went on to serve as the dean of students, an assistant principal, and then, in 1996, I was hired as the principal at that wonderful high school. It was a dream job. I had a difficult time leaving the classroom to start my administrative career. I loved teaching, and each day I had the opportunity to interact with the students. When I was encouraged to pursue a career as an administrator, I was hesitant because I was afraid that the opportunities for daily interactions with the students would diminish, and that I would have to change if I accepted the position. As I struggled to make a decision, a dear colleague of mine stated, "Your position is changing, but you do not have to change as a person." As a social studies teacher, you interact with 150 students who are in your classes, but as the principal, you will have the opportunity to interact with 2,000 students and 150 staff members. I made my choice, and I have no regrets. On April 20th, 1999, I was nearing the end of my 3rd year as principal and my 20th year at Columbine High School. It was a beautiful Colorado spring day, about 70 degrees, the sun was shining, and the sky was blue. It was 11:20 a.m. when my secretary ran into my office and screamed about a report of gunfire in the hallway and bombs exploding. My first response was that this had to be a senior prank, that such violence could not possibly be occurring at this wonderful school. As I ran out of my office and into the hallway, I encountered the gunmen. They fired their weapons at me as I ran down the hallway to protect some female students who were unaware of the danger they were in. I realized that any given day had become a reality. It was really happening. 12 of my beloved students and my dear friend, Dave, lost their lives on that terrible day. 26 additional students were injured. I was witnessing the unthinkable. The lives of the members of the Columbine High School community changed forever when the first shots were fired. To this day, people ask me, when did it get back to normal? I respond that after that day, we had to redefine normal. I told the nation that I became a member of a club that no one wanted to join. I can remember thinking in the aftermath of our tragedy that I would not allow our beloved 13 to die in vain. Unfortunately, mass shootings in our schools have not stopped, but I am not going to give up hope. There is not a day that goes by that I do not think about the tragedy at Columbine and all the lives affected and all the lives that have been lost in mass shootings at other schools and locations across America. I made a promise to continue to do what I can to stop these senseless shootings from occurring. Since the tragedy, I have had many opportunities to be interviewed by people writing books and articles and making documentaries. I have met with FBI profilers and numerous law enforcement officers and psychologists to try to find answers to the unthinkable. I have read many books about the Columbine tragedy and other mass shootings. One book in particular piqued my interest. Mass Shootings, Media, Myths, and Realities, written by Drs. Jaclyn Schildkraut and H. Jamie Elsass. As I continued my crusade, I had the opportunity to meet Jackie and Jamie when they were in Denver for a conference. I soon realized that in meeting them, my life changed for the better. Their passion for their work is undeniable. The extensive research in Mass Shootings, Media, Myths, and Realities helped me to appreciate the complexities in trying to understand mass shootings. This new book by Jackie is another important contribution to our understanding of mass shooting events in America. Mass Shootings in America, Understanding the Debates, Causes, and Responses, presents arguments for the never-ending debate surrounding the topic, as well as research to aid in our efforts to stop mass shootings. It is safe to say that no single step or reform can stop the mass shootings from occurring. But if research shows that there are things that enhance the chances of preventing the senseless violent acts from occurring, then it is our responsibility to continue to study and learn. Jackie and I continued to have conversations over the subsequent years, and in March 2017, I had the opportunity to be a keynote speaker at the State University of New York at Oswego, where Jackie is a professor. I had the honor to share the stage with Virginia Tech survivor Christina Anderson. As a result of my interactions with many of Jackie's students and colleagues at the conference, I discovered Jackie's vast knowledge about school shootings and her abiding interest in using her research to try to keep others from losing their lives to school violence. When Jackie asked me to write the foreword for this book, I was honored to be able to share my thoughts about it. After having many dialogues with Jackie, something that kept resonating with me is our agreement that they are all of your kids. I cannot tell you the number of times after the shooting at Columbine that I was asked, "What are you going to do?" And my response always was, "What are we going to do?" I think back to the policies and practices that were in place at Columbine on April 20th, 1999. Schools, law enforcement agencies, mental health workers, psychologists, and criminologists were working together as separate entities. I believe it was after Columbine that we began working as one. We checked our egos at the door and started putting the pieces to the puzzle together. We started connecting the dots. We must be a team to protect our most precious commodity, our children. As adults, we are not supposed to bury children. After coming to know Jackie and her passion on the topic, I did not hesitate in accepting her invitation to write this foreword. The book provides a unique hybrid approach to understanding the broader problem of mass shootings in America. We have learned that there is not a quick fix. We live in a society where people want answers, and they want them now. Jackie was able to solicit research from a variety of experts in writing the book to help provide those answers. I am amazed as I continue to do presentations throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe that people are in such disbelief about the response protocol that was in place on April 20th, 1999. Columbine forced our schools and communities to change what we were doing and learn to do things differently. The chapter, Issues and Challenges for Law Enforcement Responding to Mass Shootings, has that discussion, and lets the listener know what has changed and what we can do to improve. Special attention is given to first responders dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. This is a topic I spend a great deal of time discussing during my presentations, for PTSD has had a profound effect on me and many other members of the Columbine High School community. As a result of extensive media coverage of the Columbine tragedy and its aftermath, people formed their opinions about mass shootings. The first viable question is, are mass shootings increasing? Needless to say, opinions varied because of the basic essence of what constitutes a mass shooting. In the book, this issue is confronted. There is extensive research defining the criteria for qualifying an event as a mass shooting and whether it should be included in the statistical analysis. In addition, there are chapters detailing mass shootings as hate crimes and mass shootings as acts of terrorism. This was a major breakthrough. The authors had to develop a relevant definition of a mass shooting, particularly as these events now can overlap with hate crimes and acts of terrorism. There has not been a universally accepted definition. The book does an outstanding job of getting the reader to think by presenting extensive data and research to consider when weighing the causes and consequences of mass shootings. The book helps in developing critical thinking skills. An eye-opener for many is that fact that Columbine was not the first mass school shooting. A major topic that resonated with me is that no one is immune, and as I have stated during my presentations, if someone had told me that a Columbine tragedy could have happened at Columbine, I would have stated unequivocally, not in our community. As this book makes clear, schools, churches, hospitals, airports, movie theaters, and other locations are potential targets for mass shooting events. Jackie does a wonderful job of giving the grim history of mass and school shootings in America and the different types of school shootings that have taken place over the years. I must confess that in reading Glenn W. Mushart's School Shootings chapter, I did have chills and was re-traumatized when he stated, "The 1999 Columbine high school shootings in Littleton, Colorado have become a cultural touchstone for rampage-style or Columbine-style attacks." It seems that each time another mass shooting occurs in our world, it is referenced as another Columbine-like attack or shooting. The role the media plays in the aftermath was a subject that hit close to home. I made a statement that you do not get in an argument with people who buy ink by the barrel. It is my humble opinion that the reason we are still talking about Columbine after all this time is the role the media played in keeping the story relevant. Once again, the book does a marvelous job of statistically supporting my statement. The unbiased presentation of research by Jackie and the other contributors in this book will encourage people to think, converse, and, yes, passionately argue their point of view. It will also get people to realize that when it comes to mass shootings, there are no simple answers and no one-size-fits-all solution. As Americans struggle to understand recent mass shooting events, such as the ones that took place at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, at an outdoor concert in Las Vegas, Nevada, and at a church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, chapters such as the role of firearms in mass shooting are even more relevant. This chapter does a superb job of giving both sides of a highly emotional topic. I hear the passionate arguments from both sides of the aisle on the floor of Congress, as well as from families directly impacted by mass shootings. What intrigues me about this book is that both anti-gun and pro-gun advocates give testimony. Schildkraut does not give you her own opinions, but rather gives you research and arguments from experts on both sides, so you can make the decision. With our country so divided on this topic, I hope that Mass Shootings in America, Understanding the Debates, Causes, and Responses can help people understand other perspectives and come together to forge compromises that can help us address the senseless violence that is occurring in our country today. Another issue covered in this book that resonates with me is the role mental health plays in the shootings that occur in America. The chapter, Mass Shooters and Mental Illness, does an excellent job of looking at the research and determining the role of mental health in mass shooting events. I do not believe that the killers came out of their mothers' wombs hating or planning a mass shooting. I think of the two killers at Columbine. I have seen pictures of them when they were youngsters in their soccer uniforms, or smiling for their elementary school pictures. I also remember how they fired their long rifles at me. Did mental illness play a role in their act of terrorism, or in acts carried out by the gunmen at Virginia Tech or Sandy Hook? This chapter looks at the extensive research done on mental health. Are there predictors that can prevent the violent acts from occurring? Once again, various sides are presented. Of particular interest to me is the copycat or imitator theory. There is evidence that the killers at Virginia Tech and Sandy Hook mention the names of the two killers at Columbine. It frightens me to think that there are students who were not born when the Columbine tragedy occurred who are using the template of the two Columbine killers to develop elaborate plans to carry out a school shooting. It frightens me that we are allowing the two killers from Columbine to remain relevant, and I question whether this gives support to potential killers who are struggling mentally. Once again, the Mass Shooters and Mental Illness chapter addresses some of my concerns. The conclusion, which stresses the importance of holistic programs, is a must-read. The various chapters in this book also do an outstanding job of presenting extensive research on whether or not video games, music, and other potential factors are contributing factors in mass shooting events. The book also shares research on gender and mass shootings. Also of great importance is the fact that many scholars believe that killers often broadcast their intentions. The two killers at Columbine had been videotaping their plans of terrorism for almost a year prior to the attack. The chapter Insight from Averted Mass Shootings by Eric Madfis shares valuable knowledge about this topic and hopefully alerts people to keep their eyes and ears open for potential threats. This is especially important in this age of ubiquitous social media. A vital point I share during my presentations is that a student who has an adult that he or she can go to has the potential to avert a tragedy from occurring. Another vitally important chapter in the book is School Security Responses After Mass Shootings. History shows that each time a school shooting occurs, safety measures are implemented. This chapter discusses the security measures that have proven to be effective in preventing violent acts. I truly believe that there are people who believe if they do not talk about it or practice drills, it will not happen. This cannot be the attitude. Once again, this chapter talks about the benefits of school security, the monetary issues confronting institutions in implementing the security measures and programs, and the unintended consequences of failing to be proactive in school safety. Responses to Mass Shootings is a chapter in which Christina Anderson, founder of the Koshka Foundation and a survivor at Virginia Tech, and Michelle Gay, who tragically lost her daughter Josephine at Sandy Hook and started a school safety organization called Safe and Sound, a Sandy Hook initiative, joined Jackie to share their wealth of knowledge and lessons learned from their personal experiences. I have had the opportunity to share the stage with them on several occasions, and their stories and knowledge are valuable on the topic. I applaud Jackie for soliciting their knowledge for the book. This book also includes an Encyclopedia of Mass Shooting Events 1966 to 2016. This section provides a wealth of knowledge about mass shootings that have occurred on American soil from 1966 to 2016. Each event is structured similarly. The Columbine tragedy event was accurately reported and did debunk many of the myths that circulated following the tragedy and continue to circulate 19 years later. One of the many strengths of the book is that Jackie does not try to tell you what works or does not work in preventing mass shooting events. She accumulates the evidence from professionals in the field who share their knowledge and extensive research, and then you can decide. For example, the book shares articles from both sides of the gun control debate, including arguments regarding the meaning and extent of the Second Amendment. Also included in this section is Schildkraut and Elsas' thought-provoking research entitled Presenting Mass Shootings, Using Theory to Drive Evidence-Based Practice. As stated earlier, the book does an outstanding job giving details about mass shooting events from 1966 to 2016. The book does focus on 3 shootings that have had a particularly large and lasting impact: the Columbine High School tragedy in 1999, the Virginia Tech tragedy in 2007, and the Sandy Hook tragedy in 2012. In the Pivotal Documents in Mass Shootings Research section, excerpts from government reports will help listeners reach a deeper understanding of each of these shootings. The report of Governor Bill Owens' Columbine Review Commission was reported accurately, and I could make this statement without hesitation because I testified before the committee. The Virginia Tech Review Panel report in 2007 and the final report of the Sandy Hook Advisory Commission in 2015 serve as excellent resources as well. Many of the precautions and anti-violence practices being used today are a direct result of the work done by those 3 committees. Many of the recommendations have led to legislation that provides greater protection to our children and staff members. Another key document in this section is the New York City Police Department's report on active shooters, including recommendations based on its findings. The section also references gun laws enacted during the administrations of President Johnson and President Clinton, and the loopholes associated with each piece of legislation. Other documents present the perspectives of Presidents Clinton, Bush, and Obama, members of Congress, and the National Rifle Association on school violence and mass shooting events. I do feel that President Obama stated it well when he said that he would sign a directive that would give law enforcement, schools, mental health professionals, and the public health community the tools that they need to help reduce gun violence. The key point is that we must work as a team. As noted, I always respond, "What are we going to do?" when questioned about how to respond to these events. Our children are our most precious commodities. In conclusion, I would encourage you to listen to the book with an open mind. Throughout the book, after hearing the research presented, I do see the different points of view. I know that we continue to witness school shootings and other acts of violence, but how many potential acts have been thwarted because of new laws and policies that have been enacted? We must continue to look for answers. Mass shootings in America, understanding the debates, causes, and responses, does an outstanding job of looking at all the research on this subject and presenting it in a way that will hopefully encourage Americans of every ideological and political stripe to approach the topic of mass shootings with an open mind and see what is working and what is not working. As stated in the book, although researchers can find evidence that correlates for these events, it will be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to determine causation for all mass shooters. It is imperative that scholars continue to engage in individual offender case studies, as well as examinations of the phenomenon of mass shootings as a whole, in order to further the knowledge base about these events and facilitate both proactive and reactive responses to such tragedies. We must continue to fight the good fight, because another life lost is one too many. Frank DeAngelis, Principal, Retired, Columbine High School. Introduction. It brought the nation to its knees, but now that we have gotten back up, how have things changed? What have we learned? An inscription on the Wall of Healing at the Columbine Memorial. On April 20th, 1999, 2 high school seniors opened fire at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. By the end of their nearly 1-hour rampage, 12 students and a teacher had been killed before the shooters committed suicide. The Columbine shootings were not a new event, nor would they be the last mass shooting to occur in the United States. Something about the event, however, changed the way the phenomenon of mass shootings, both in and out of schools, was viewed. Columbine came to be viewed as what experts call a watershed moment, an archetypal case to which all other mass shootings would be compared. In its wake, and in the aftermath of each similar tragedy that followed, the nation has been left with a question inscribed on the memorial. What have we learned? The lessons learned in the aftermath of Columbine and other similar tragedies are important for several reasons. First, by examining how these horrific events unfolded, we are better able to work toward addressing such issues that may prevent future attacks. Through the years, there have been advances in threat assessment protocols, safety measures and practices, and improvements in security technology in response to mass shooting events. Second, advancements in response protocols for both law enforcement and other first responders, as well as civilians, have been informed by previous tragedies. These reforms have, at least in some cases, shortened the duration of mass shooting events, reduced arrival times for first responders, and potentially mitigated the loss of life. Many of these lessons serve as the foundation for this book and are discussed in the following chapters and sections. The loss of just one life to these senseless acts of violence is one too many.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?